Jim Schlossnagle is in studio. Houston Christian coming in town tomorrow. Ryan Broninger's with us. Schloss, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So
I'm doing well too, David. Thank you.
I already said hi to you earlier.
Okay.
But I guess I said hi to him when he walked in the studio.
That's
too.
okay.
So
Yeah.
Different people have different privileges around here.
You ready for winter?
I am. I'm driving to Oklahoma today. It's supposed to be like 40-something degrees when I get up there,
Yeah.
50 degrees. So,
Hey, Schloss, obviously every year's a different team, but this year a little bit different team. Just talk to me about excitement level, getting it all started with a different opponent, not yourselves, tomorrow.
Yeah, just really excited to get out on the field, see somebody else, and mainly have the fans in the stands. I think my first year here, we played our first fall game on a Friday night before Alabama and had 4,000 or 5,000 people, or what felt like that, in the ballpark. So hopefully we'll have that again tomorrow night. It's free, open to the public. There'll be some limited concessions there, but yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And just looking forward to seeing, especially our new guys who haven't played under the lights in front of a crowd against an opponent, whether it be freshmen or transfers. Just excited to see them compete and see how they handle it.
this offseason, you gave promotions to Michael Early as they expanded the coaching staff. NCAA allowed you guys to do that, but also to Nolan Kane. And you were outspoken on whenever y'all had the pitching coach transition and just kind of the role that Nolan played in keeping what you had intact, and also both of you guys a hand in what you brought in. But I still think people the fan base doesn't quite understand the job that Nolan does. So I wanted you to take a minute to just speak to what kind of coach he is, but then the recruiting side, is there a better one in the country in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't think so, but I mean, that's super perceptive of you to bring that up in that way. And Nolan has always, long before I hired him, when he was at LSU, he's long been known for his recruiting success and his talent that way, but he's a really good coach. Mm-hmm. And having, played at LSU, he didn't play for Coach Burtman, but he's in that tree. And then play and work for Paul Maneri, a Hall of Fame coach. We want to keep him here as long as we can, but he's the associate head coach for a reason, because he knows how to run a program and he has a great feel for it. I don't know how I personally would have survived the 4 weeks after the regional, simply because of the coaching changes, some support staff changes, the transfer portal, trying to hold on to Grahovic and Sorrell and Jack Bell and Isaac Morton and all the other, high-end high school players we had in the draft. And it was literally 24 hours a day. And then I had some head coach responsibilities away from town. I mean, Nolan was literally the glue that kept this thing. I don't know if I want to say kept it together, because it's not like it was falling apart, but there was just a lot of moving parts. And of course we have camp going on, and Hutch is a rock star, and Chuck Box and Will Fox at running that. So, but yeah, Nolan is an elite coach. He has great feel for the game. He's a really good third base coach. He's really developed as a great catching guy. But I think when we had those press conferences, one of our associate athletic directors texted me and said, "Wow, Nolan Kane looked like a head coach when he was standing there talking." And so he is a future head coach. We just want to make sure he doesn't go anywhere unless it's for a super great place.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those freshmen. You mentioned them in your press conference. You just mentioned them there. I wrote a story. It'll be coming out later on the site, David, about this freshman position player group. And I know that there's going to be a lot of pitchers as well that play a really big role in y'all's season probably. You never know. Fall ball phenoms and the real thing are different. But, I mean, you said this is the most talented freshman group you've ever had. What is it? Is it just the talent, or are you more surprised about the production early on?
I would say all of it. I would say just watching their pure talent. So talent to me is, the 5 tools: hit, run, throw, defense, and hit for power. And so just you look at those tools, and then you watch how they take that into a ball game, how they handle the challenges that I put before them. So, I'm trying to be as strategic as I can when I'm making out inter squad lineups to say, I want to see Jack Bell against this tough lefty, or I want to see Grahovic against this guy, or see how he handles this or that, or move him around. How does Jack Bell handle just his body language? How's he handle not playing shortstop? Let's move him over to third base. And Jack's inquisitive. He asks questions. Sorrell, most high school outfielders start off they're in center field. They come to college and they may not play center like Jace did in last year. So how they've handled everything to today, October the 5th, has been awesome. That's not the end all. We all know that when the lights come on Friday, when the lights come on in the season, things can go better or things can get worse. But I'm very confident in who they are as people, and they're already talented.
I want to follow that up with Brandon Montgomery. Big splash when he was able to transfer here. Just how has he acclimated himself? Has he been exactly what you expected?
Yeah, he's been way more than what I just didn't know him. You know, you don't really know him, and what I told him when we recruited him is I don't want a transactional relationship with a player. I don't want this to be, hey, you come here and you give us this and we'll give you this, and then in June, hopefully in Omaha, we'll say goodbye to each other and good luck in pro ball. I want this to be a transformational thing. I need you to dive into being an Aggie, and you really, this time next year, man, you're going to miss this. Like every guy that was on our team last year that's in pro ball, they miss this. They miss college. And this time next year, you're going to be doing this for yourself and not for a team. And so we've had some great conversations that way. He has dove into his teammates. He's literally in Max's office almost every day. We've really committed to giving him every opportunity as a pitcher to develop. And so therefore, he's going to play a little bit of outfield Friday night, but he hasn't really played outfield in an inter-squad game but maybe one or two times, because I promised him we're going to try and take it easy on his body. You're going to get all the swings that you possibly need. You'll run the bases as much as we need you to do to learn our system, but your focus is going to be on the mound, and then we'll get through fall practice and we'll look at it and see what his thoughts are. So he has a voice in his own development, but he is an ultra team guy, and Aggie should be excited about that.
Your expectations, you mentioned Jace making a positional move. Also, Ryan Targoch, the two big returners off of last year's team. Targo kind of bouncing around on the infield. He came in here for an NIL interview, said, the focus is going to be keeping his feet on the dirt. But just what have you seen out of those returners?
Well, Targo, yeah, well, I can't, knock on wood, if there was a scenario where he was playing the outfield, that means two or three really good players got hurt. But we're trying to keep him bouncing between second and first base. Sometimes where a player plays isn't just reflective of who he is, it's reflective of the rest of the team and how other people fit in and who's injured and who can do what. But Targo's made some awesome swing adjustments, so he's looked great. Coffer, I think, has caught well, has put together better at-bats of late. Jace,
stronger, too. Max, noticeably bigger.
Infinitely stronger, infinitely more confident. He's still 18.
Yeah.
I mean, we still put him in the. I still think of him as a freshman. Caden Kent, bigger, stronger. Mm-hmm. His arm was already good. It's actually better. He really can throw. He's not that. He's got outstanding tools, but he's not that super toolsy player. He's that true gritty baseball player, and so he stays on the ball. And he's can play just about any position on the field. In terms of position players, I'm not sure who else.
Jace.
Jace. Jace, we know who Jace is. Chestnut's been a guy who's been impressive. I'm going to challenge him from this point forward on we're trying to get him at the top of some lineups to make sure he faces the best arms on our staff. Versus some guys that may or may not make the team. I want to make sure that's real, but he's playing an awesome center field. He can move into second base at any time, and if he gets on base, man, he changes games.
Yeah, he does.
But this is a tough team to play on.
Yep,
and so a lot of the success of our team is going to be determined by ego or lack thereof, and just waiting your turn and see what happens.
I want to bring up Evan Oschenbeck as I would assume a teachable moment for you, for a guy that wasn't even a thing this time last year, and how that can apply towards this year's roster.
Yeah, I think we were talking just outside with OB. Coaches think they know. I mean, I think I know. All you can do is go off what you see and go off your past experiences. But the games are what tell you. The games are what tell you who the players are. And this time last year, we were thinking about cutting Aschenbeck. Mm-hmm. I mean, not seriously, but he was. When you have a 40-man roster, you're like, he's 38, 39. But I was like, whoever cut a strike throwing left-handed pitcher, like, who doesn't need that guy? So, but then when we get into the season, because we had beat him up pretty good in the fall. When we get into the season, he becomes obviously our most valuable pitcher, most reliable pitcher, and just excelled. So some guys look like Tarzan, play like Jane in the practice or in the games, practice to games, whereas other guys do the opposite. And Evan is we're super thankful he's on our team.
I did want to ask you quickly about the U of H game, which is something you haven't done since you've been here, a fall ball game on the road.
Right. Yeah. Number one, Coach Whitting came up here. Houston came up here, I think, my first year. So he gently reminded me that we owed them a game. And then when I found out when he wanted to play the game, which is a Friday night, October the 20th, the night before they play Texas in this is their first year in the Big 12, right? In football and everything. So they'll have Texas at home, which I'm sure it's been a long time since that's happened for the Cougars. So I felt like, wow, that'll be great. Should have a great crowd, and that'll be good for our team. And we have obviously have a lot of Aggie fans in Houston area, so hopefully we'll have a big crowd there as well.
Yeah.
Just early returns on Coach Max. I know there was a reason why you hired him, but you never really know how somebody's going to be till you work day to day with him. And have your expectations of him or what he was going to be changed at all compared to what he is?
Yeah, nothing's changed. If anything, everything's gotten better because you get to work with him and see what he's like on a day-to-day basis. Works his rear end off, is super loyal, super positive, but not Pollyanna. There's a big difference between positive thinking and having your head
look that word up.
Head in the clouds.
Pollyanna.
Yeah.
That's never been used on TexAgs Radio before.
It's from a movie.
What does it mean then, David?
It's from Pollyanna's a movie, right? I'm correct on that. Right?
The Polly movie with was Jennifer Aniston in that movie?
Along Came Polly?
Along Came Polly, yeah.
Pollyanna Dictionary. Here we go.
Pollyanna.
He's English second
Pollyanna
language.
thinking.
The term derives from Eleanor Report. Okay, you
whatever. What's happening right now?
Unjustifiably optimistic attitude.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. He used it perfect.
Yeah, so he's not unjustifiably optimistic. He's optimistic, right? Max is, but very knowledgeable. Knows all of the new age stuff, which is fine in the bullpen, right? But when you get in the game, it's about winning the game and who gets people out, and whether the pitch shape or the spin rate or all these things, whether they line up or they don't line up, does it get the hitter out? And so that was the most important thing to me, is that there was a difference between development and winning, because as I say every day, there's a scoreboard and that's what counts.
And there's also, I think, from my observation, there's a juxtaposition between what he is in the bullpen and what he is in the dugout when he's calling pitches, because you go down there and you watch him work with the pitchers in the bullpen, and it is like they've got the slow-mo cameras, you've got the TrackMan numbers on it, he's really working with mechanical stuff. And then I hear him all the time in the dugout, hey, make this your 0-0, dominate the zone. Like, it's really dumbs down the thinking when they go to the game mound.
Yeah, you're right. He does, and I think you'll even see more of that in the spring. And all of that stuff is dependent on the pitcher, right? So Aschenbeck, we know he's going to throw strikes. He may be working on a particular pitch, trying to make his breaking ball better. You've seen that with Lampkin, right? We know he can go get hitters out with his fastball, but for Lampkin to step into that Asa Lacy, high first round type pitcher, it has to be more than the fastball. And so I think it's different for each pitcher. But at the end of the day, when he's saying that make your 0-0, you're saying, hey, throw the freaking ball down the middle of the plate and give us a chance. Because I do think, eventually if we get the right guys out there, we're going to play good defense. And he brings such a wealth of experience. Kids look at him, and he came out of the major leagues, came out of professional baseball, and when he says, hey, 94% of the time when you throw the first pitch over the plate, 94% of the time you either get the ball back as it's either a strike or an out, right? Yeah. And so it just gives them, if I say that, what do you know, right? You're just the head coach. You're like my old dad. Well, we have this new bright, shiny guy who came out of professional baseball and has skins on the wall, and so it's good for our pitchers, gives them confidence. You mentioned Lampkin, but I think a name that a lot of the A&M fan base is kind of interested in seeing him take potentially the next step in his progression is Chris Cortez. So how do you think that relationship has melded? What have you seen out of Chris so far this fall? Yeah, I mean, I've seen him throw. Obviously, he throws hard, but we all know that doesn't mean anything these days. It helps. It's sexy, but he's the shape of his breaking ball is better. His changeup is outstanding. So I just think it's a matter of harnessing that. He's done that. He's thrown enough strikes. We've also, as a coach during the inter-squad games, I want the pitchers to dominate the hitters, but when the pitchers make a bad pitch, I want the hitters to hammer it. And so I think the fact that Chris isn't walking people, but maybe he's had a few times where he's gotten hit some. I mean, I'll take my chances on that. I mean,
sure.
As he continues to make his pitches better and throw them in the strike zone, then I still believe in him. I'm his biggest fan, and he's going to start the game tomorrow night.
Any other pitchers that you mentioned the freshman group: Isaac Morton, Brett Antolik, Caden Wilson, Jason Bowden. Every time I've been out there and seen those guys, it's like, holy crap! Like, these guys are going to pitch. But I think you've also got some really interesting transfer guys come in, and maybe even like a guy like Tanner Jones pushing to be in the rotation right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say who wouldn't be in rotation, but Tanner Jones has exceeded my expectations only because my only expectation came from watching him on video. His velocity's up. Max has helped him add a pitch. So he's got the good changeup. He's got the good slider. He's got a little cutter now. And he throws those pitches for strikes, and he's a really awesome guy to be around. He brings Alabama, which is not a great word this week, but just kind of a Southern mentality, and he's a lot of fun to be around.